Tingle is a lot of things, but did you know he almost had the chance to add star of his own horror game to that list? Nintendo is a strange company. They often hide behind a facade of being the family-friendly option when buying a video game console with their colorful and whimsical characters, and focus on innovation and creativity when making games. But that obsession with chasing ideas from the inner folds of their developers' imagination has also led to some pretty out there and messed up stuff showing up in their games over the years. That being said though, a Tingle horror game. I don't know about you, but when I first heard about this, I was quite taken aback. Nintendo? Horror? Really? Sure, the company is closely associated with second-party horror games like Eternal Darkness and Fatal Frame, but as far as plucking out one of their mainstream characters and throwing them into a horror setting, I guess Luigi's Mansion is very loosely classified as a horror game, but when I first heard Tingle horror game, my mind jumped to something more along the lines of this. Now granted, if this project ever saw the light of day, it would most likely be a horror-like game like Luigi's Mansion. But I mean, at the end of the day, who are we to say just what exactly this game was shaping up to be and why it was cancelled? Maybe the team at Vanpool created something so utterly terrifying that all evidence of its existence was immediately destroyed on the spot. Who are we to say? So this Tingle horror project, yes, it existed. But how exactly did we learn of its existence? And how exactly did we get here? Tingle's cancelled horror game has only been brought to light once in the 11 years since its development in 2010. In an interview with Kotaku in 2018 regarding Vanpool's recently released Dylan Dead Heat Breakers on 3DS. In said interview, Kensuke Tanabe, producer of the Dylan's Rolling Western games and Vanpool's Tingle series, spilled the beans on what would have been Vanpool's third Tingle project. Looking back 8 years ago, we were developing a horror game with Vanpool that starred Tingle as the main character, but that project was cancelled due to a variety of reasons. This was our first and final time hearing about Vanpool's third Zelda project, but seeing as word about it had come from the mouth of one of Nintendo's very own producers, I believe there's little doubting the fact that this project did exist in some form. But before we can take a deeper look at what this project actually was, I think it's important we understand who Tingle actually was. It all started with Tingle's creation all the way back in 2000's The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. See, Tingle was meant to be an odd fellow from the very start. According to Eiji Aonuma, Tingle was the result of their idea for adding purchasable maps into the game. From there, they thought the map salesman should also be the one to make the maps. Next, they asked themselves how would he do this, coming up with the idea he would float through the air to better see the landscape. Finally, they asked themselves what kind of person would travel around with a giant balloon strapped to their back making maps. In Aonuma's words, not mine, a really weird guy. Tingle is actually one of the few unique character designs to come out of Majora's Mask, since most of Termina's inhabitants are direct asset swaps from Ocarina of Time. Tingle, the moon, the dark undertones and environmental design, and even the name Majora's Mask can all be traced back to the creative mind of Takaya Imamura. Imamura was the art director on Majora's Mask as well as some other N64 cult classics. But like it or not, Imamura's most recognizable legacy to the world of gaming will most likely be this very impersonating man. But let's explore that a little more. Tingle's personality. Because again, according to Aonuma, Tingle's obsession with fairies was a natural step from the idea of a character that never wanted to grow up. This also then extended to his outfit and childlike use of catchphrases like which, by the way, is derived from the Japanese word kururimpa, a phrase that is uttered in Japan in unison with making a cuckoo sign. Following the idea of this never wanting to grow up character archetype for Tingle, he, like Link, takes a lot of inspiration from Disney's Peter Pan. His clothing, his fairy obsession, never wanting to grow up. Tingle was designed to be a comedic oddball, and it's how that performance would land with different audiences that would go on to define his future. You see, for some reason, it's become a bit of a thing over the years that Westerners really freaking hate Tingle. Meanwhile, they can't get enough of him over in Japan. Specifically, this hate seems to stem from North America more than any other region. Which, to be honest, personally, I think that should be enough for anyone to question the phrase proud to be an American. That's just me, though. It's really interesting, though, when you actually get into why this happened, that being value dissonance. A lot of this negative response comes down to differences in culture and how different things are welcomed and perceived by those opposing cultures. For example, many American and European players find a distaste in Japanese anime-inspired art styles. In addition, many Japanese games that make the jump overseas in these regions also have censorship issues due to cultural differences in some way. On the Japanese box art for Ice Climbers, Nana can be seen swinging her hammer towards a seal enemy. While this might not come off as anything problematic in Japan, in some countries across Europe and America, this could be seen as controversial due to the practice of seal clubbing in those regions. Thus, on the box art of the European release, the seal has been replaced with a Yeti-like enemy. This value dissonance goes both ways though. Western developers and console manufacturers such as Xbox have historically struggled to find their footing with the Japanese market. And while you might not see it as often, Western games can also be censored when making the jump to Japan. Despite a general tolerance for blood and gore in games, Japan is much more conscious when body dismemberment becomes involved. In the Japanese release of The Last of Us, for example, some scenes see changes in camera angle to help mask this. So you start to see how value dissonance, how different cultures react to different things, plays into a lot of regional differences in games. But anyway, back to Tingle. Tingle is eccentric. He's goofy. He's a bit of a time waster, a loser, a sketchy guy, annoying. Some might even say he's a little creep. But that's why we love him. He's different. He might take himself seriously, but you as a player sure as heck shouldn't. And that's where I believe many in the Japanese audience, as well as other Westerner outliers and myself, find an appreciation for Tingle. But as split as his popularity was, you couldn't keep the man down. Following Majora's Mask, Tingle made appearances in Oracle of Ages, Wind Waker, Four Swords Adventures, and The Minish Cap. All this, however, was just leading to Tingle's biggest break yet in 2006. When Nintendo partnered with fellow Japanese game developer Vanpool to create a standalone Zelda spin-off title, freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. A game that I to this day hold as a grudge against my own home country for being so outspokenly hateful of Tingle that it did not get an American release. Freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land was released in 2006 in Japan before heading to Europe a year later. It was the first of 2 Tingle games to be released on the DS, excluding the Japanese Club Nintendo exclusive Tingle Balloon Fight reskin, and the DSware Too Much Tingle pack of basic Tingle-themed applications. Rosy Rupee Land can best be described as a Zelda game, but if the main objective was getting rich off rupees instead of saving the world. Nope, I'm not kidding. The game consists of mostly exploring dungeons and bargaining with NPCs to obtain money needed for Tingle to reach the paradise of Rupee Land. Yeah. Also, a very important distinction about the character of Tingle is made in this game. Tingle is not just one man, or a reincarnated bloodline as is seen with so many other characters. Tingle is a state of being. Anyway, that brings us to Vanpool's next project in this series, Ripen Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love, the sequel to Rosy Rupee Land, released in 2009 exclusively in Japan. This game continues the trend of utter bizarreness we found in its predecessor, as well as reaffirms that Tingle is not just a guy, it's a title, as a completely different 35-year-old man takes up the mantle for this adventure. Where it strays from Rosy Rupee Land is in its gameplay and plot. Rosy Rupee Land could be categorized as an action-adventure game, a more traditional, somewhat Zelda-like game in its approach. But Balloon Trip of Love throws that established gameplay out the window and replaces it with a point-and-click adventure game. Oh yeah, and instead of the money focus this time, it's been shifted to love. You know, the whole Tingle horror game idea is starting to sound more reasonable by the minute. Yep, this game has dating sim elements since the entire goal in this one is to net a dance with the princess. Not only that, but I haven't even mentioned Tingle's party members on this adventure yet. You have Scarecrow, Robot, Lion. Wonder where the idea for that combination came from. Also, this game has some pretty good music, and I'm actually in love with some of the songs on its OST, so I don't even know what to think anymore. So the Tingle series of games by Vanpool really was something else. They took what was already a weird character and decided to craft adventures around him to match, no, maybe even surpass, his own bizarreness. And now, knowing the lengths to which the Tingle DS series was able to expand his horizons in so many ridiculous yet kinda fitting ways, I think the Tingle horror game wasn't that bizarre of a next step for the series, but also could have been executed really well. Tingle's been on an action-adventure for financial gain, a point-and-click journey for love. Is a horror story for his own survival really that much of a stretch? This game could have even played into that distaste for Tingle found in Western audiences. I know every scenario we brought up so far has had Tingle in the position of a protagonist, but what if this horror game actually cast him as our main horror creature antagonist? A way to teach a lesson to all those pesky Westerners who wouldn't love him. Now you'll fear him. Alas, since this game's cancellation following the development mentioned in 2010, Tingle has been missing in action. Outside of his appearance as DLC in Hyrule Warriors in 2015, his last mainline appearance outside of Easter eggs, remakes, and the Vanpool Tingle saga was all the way back in 2004's The Minish Cap. It seems that in the end, all the hate campaigns against Tingle got just what they wanted. The poor man wiped off the map for future installments. Kinda ironic when you realize he was probably the fella who made those maps. And that's the tale of Tingle, from his origins as a really weird guy to his assumed death in a cancelled horror spin-off. I suppose this would be the time where I wrap up this video with a heartfelt eulogy to this silly little man. Remind you all that if he were still here with us today, he would ask that you not weep for him now that he is gone, but smile and remember him as he were. I suppose that is what I would say. If I didn't believe there is hope, and that our voices, us as Tingle appreciators and believers, could help to resurrect our green-clad friend, I ask you, my friends, to let it be known, to spread the word. It is time we bring back Tingle. Tweet the hashtag, tell your friends, walk outside and scream it at the top of your lungs, as long as you're not disturbing anyone. Bring back Tingle! Bring back Tingle! Bring back Tingle! Hope is all we have. We must cling on to it. Tingle will return! Breath of the Wild 2, here we come! Hey, hi guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did and you haven't yet already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much and I appreciate it so much. Thank you. This one might have just been one of my favorites. I enjoyed making this video so much and getting the chance to talk about my little green friend Tingle. I really do love the guy. I'm also not joking. Go tweet the hashtag. Go tell your friends. We gotta bring back Tingle, everybody. I mean, yeah, that's the only way we can. We must have our voices be heard. Tingle must return to us. Breath of the Wild 2. He better be there, or there's gonna be some problems. Beyond that, again, if you did like the video, make sure you hit the like button, as that does help YouTube spread it around. You can also hit the notification bell if you want to get notified when I put out new videos, because YouTube doesn't always tell you sometimes. You can also follow me on Twitter at XenogamerYT, join the Discord server with a link in the description below, and come by my Twitch channel every Friday night for new streams live on the thing. I really appreciate you guys for checking out this video, and I know that doesn't mean much to you, but it means more to me than you could ever know. So just thank you for watching my stuff, supporting what I'm doing here, and just thank you. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. Until then, bye-bye.